Coming up on 11:15, Andrew Urquhart with you on the program today. Not sure if you saw the census figures, the latest census data as to who we are as a people of Aotearoa. What are our priorities? What are we into? What are we not into? And how many of us there are? In fact, that data released recently, and in amongst the statistics, it seems that we are a less religious lot than we used to be. A continuing decline in how important faith is to the average New Zealander. Joining us on the program now with his thoughts and comments on these statistics and what it might mean for the church, National Director of New Zealand Christian Network, Stuart Lange. Stuart, kia ora, good morning.
Kia ora tātou.
Perhaps no surprises with the data, but if we go back over various census over the last few years, an increasing decline in church affiliation at least.
Well, it's increased, but it's not increasing. The rate at which Christianity has, a preference for identification with Christianity has been essentially going down at 1% per year. So that means that, and that's for many decades actually.
Yep.
So if you put that in 5 years, it basically goes down 5 points every census, and that's happened again. So gone from 36.5% down to 32.3% between 2018 and 2023.
So,
and the other figure that's been creeping up and is the percentage of New Zealanders who identify with no religion.
Yeah.
And that was 48%, and now it's 51.6%. So that's gone over the 50% thing. So that's a majority. A bare majority. Christianity remains by far the biggest faith in New Zealand, religious faith, but no religion is, in a sense, the biggest religion now.
That is quite significant. That
it is significant.
Yeah, it seems to be evidence that that people who have a faith are now in the minority, although only technically. A difference, though, between church affiliation and having a faith or having a spiritual belief system.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of regular attendance at church, and really committed to that, it's under 10% just. It's hard to know for sure. And in terms of being, authentically Christian, it's obviously considerably bigger than that.
Yeah.
But there's varying degrees of commitment and church involvement and so on. So
some people would see this as inevitable decline. In fact, some headlines of people saying that the church is dying in New Zealand and will be irrelevant very shortly. But of course, these articles written by people who have no faith at all and see people that do have faith to be naive at best, perhaps.
Christians are accused of being triumphalist at times. Secularists are not immune to that either.
Exactly.
Just squeaking over half is significant. But I think in terms of just thinking what's going on here, and it is serious, I would put it down to just the continuing pervasive influence of Western cultural assumptions, secularism, skepticism, the primacy of individual choice and identity, and consumerism, hedonism, materialism. All these isms are just continuing to affect people in society generally, and all the public channels and institutions, church accepted, tend to assume and promote those views.
Yeah.
And so there's a cumulative continuing effect. And so as fewer people become Christian or are in the churches, and the church is generally aging, as new generations come through who haven't been exposed in the same way to Christian influences, and then they have children and they influence other people, clearly there's going to be a compounding effect. So it's a percentage or so each year, from our perspective, in the wrong direction.
Is there blame that can be held with the church? Some people have said maybe the church is failing here. It's failing in its in terms of evangelism. It's failing in terms
Yeah.
of developing
Well,
leadership,
the,
perhaps.
the same cultural influences that cause many people not to become Christian or to be clearly irreligious and to be proud of that
Yeah.
or committed to that, those same cultural influences have weakened the church
Mm-hmm.
and affected uh, some people's confidence in the faith. But it's more that we are unable to retain all the people,
Yeah.
and so some who a lot of people from Christian families and so on have been influenced by the wider cultural milieu
Mm-hmm.
and those relentless secular pressures and have defected from the faith. And in fact, there's a very telling and concerning research finding. It was from the Faith and Values Wilberforce thing
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
that for every 5 people who convert to faith in New Zealand, for every single person
Okay.
who converts to faith of any faith, 5 disengage from faith.
Wow.
Right. So that's a real worry.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
what the problem is it's retention.
mm-hmm.
The church is neither recruiting enough people through evangelism,
Yeah.
nor is it retaining them. So it seems to me that there's a deficit both in evangelism, and those same cultural pressures cause the church to be shy or diffident or lack confidence in our current context with evangelism. And there's also a very serious deficit of robust discipleship.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You talked about the aging of the church population. And of course, this is just a demographic bubble in some ways. This is happening generally across society, and people are panicking about how we're going to afford to pay the pension in a decade or so.
Yeah.
I mean, this is also
Yeah.
evident within the church, that the church generally tends to be older rather than younger.
Yes, it does. And not all churches, but just across the churches as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
that is the case. And of course, that means fewer young Christians
Yep.
are being produced by Christians,
Yeah.
because they're not having children.
Mm.
And so there are fewer children, fewer families, things like, we don't call them Sunday schools now, but those sort of
Yeah.
things, and youth groups and so on. They're all under pressure in a lot of churches, not in every church by any means.
Mm-hmm.
So that the acculturation or the incorporation of younger generations into the church is more difficult when the church is more it's aging, right?
Yeah.
So it's focused. So obviously, churches, in my view, need to move heaven and earth to attract and retain families and to provide really good children's work and youth work and discipleship and evangelism.
Yeah.
This is not rocket science, but we need to get back to those basics of bringing more in, and retaining people better, in the face of those cultural pressures. So it's a cumulative effect that we are simply not doing enough to stop that steady, incremental, and ultimately very serious reversal of how the figures should be. We should be gaining, not losing, every year.
Although
it's not happening around the world.
I was going to say, in terms of the global picture, the church has never been healthier in some ways.
Oh well, I heard just yesterday the figure that it's growing by 1 or 2% every year.
Wow.
Around the world, and in surprising places. But in the West, the church is in difficulty. It's been there before, I might say, and there is the thing of a massive spiritual renewal which would at least temporarily fix this problem and completely and turn things around. But it's got to be a really genuine, pervasive spiritual renewal. And it's happened in Western societies. That's where we heard about revivals first, coming from Western societies, in the 18th century into the 19th century, pretty spotty in the 20th century. But, that God can work in new ways. He raised up the Pentecostal movement, the charismatic movement, post-war evangelical resurgence. These things can happen. So I don't think we need to, we should be really concerned, but I think we actually need to be praying and looking to God to strengthen the church, rather than just saying, we're all on the way to extinction. We're definitely not.
Exactly. I mean, reasons to be concerned, but no need to panic, perhaps, in that regard.
No, not panic. Just prayer and action.
Which is a much more practical response to a crisis.
It generally works much better than panic.
Exactly.
Or despair.
Stuart, very much appreciate your insight, your thoughts and comments on this important issue. And New Zealand Christian Network, if people wanted to find out more, of course, that is nzcn.nz. Did I get that right? nzcn.nz. Stuart, thanks for what you do. Thanks for joining us.
Subscribe. It's free. Okay. Bye.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.